skinwalkers play. We're gonna wrangle chickens and hogs all day. Pastoral life is the best. Eggs and chickens. Plus all the rest, video game insanity. And cooking plus fitness, fishing, hunting and more. Come on down to the ranch. Skinwalker! Skinwalker Ranch! Down in the ranch where the skinwalkers play. We're gonna wrangle chickens and hogs all day. Pastoral life is the best. Eggs and chickens. Plus all the rest, video game insanity. And cooking plus fitness, fishing, hunting and more. Come on down to the ranch. Skinwalker! Skinwalker Ranch!
Sup, the ranch is back, and we've got a Mosin minute, I guess you could say. We're going to call this the Mosin minute episode. It's going to be over a minute, though. And we're going to talk about the huge, I wouldn't say, I mean, I'm making it sound more than it was, but it was a big thing at the time. And what I mean by that, the big thing I'm talking about was, this was a gun that most of us in my generation, I am technically a Zoomer from the first year. This was the gun most of us turning 18 around the year 2014, 2015. This was what the cheap gun was. I remember my senior year in high school when I turned 18, this was the first gun I bought. And I paid $119, I think, for it. And it is just nothing special. Is mash produced, non-matching. This is, I believe, Lithuanian or Latvian refurb. It's got this nice lacquer that they just lazily dumped everywhere. I kind of wish they didn't refurb it like that, because it just wants to come off, as you can see. But you can see it's little Lithuanian or Latvian, I forget which one, square box refurb mark up there by the crest. This is a 1933 production. There's your ISMASH markings. It is a Century import. And it is gigantic, like all M9130s are. This gun, I bought it. I was so happy that you could buy a very powerful 30-06 near power rifle for, at the time, $119. I was ecstatic. And I ended up buying a case of, I believe it was Bulgarian Silvertip 54R for like $89 with it. And I had 440 rounds of 54R in this gun, and I just went and blasted that like a day. It was so fun. I shot like a old scrap metal, old paint buckets, old just garbage with it, old refrigerators, old furniture. It was so fun shooting full power military rifle, you know, late 19th, early 20th century military full power rifle loads at old junky appliances. Nothing quite like it. But anyways, many of us, this was the first rifle we could get, first centerfire. The ammo was cheap. They're accurate enough. These are not precision rifles, and I know a lot of people would try to bubble them into that, but these are 3 to 4 MOA rifles. And for World War II, and at the time they were made, that was perfectly acceptable. That's about what everything was. M1 Grands aren't super precise rifles either. Neither are K98Ks. Neither are Lee Enfields. Lee Enfields have back locking lugs, which mechanically makes them less accurate than the others, but they're still pretty accurate. So there you go. But I remember seeing just crates of these everywhere. Like, you could go into a 2012, 2013 gun show and you would see like $299 SKSs from China in decent shape, and you would see tons of these for anywhere, if they were on sale, from $89.99 to like $120, depending on what they were. The PU snipers went for like $300, so a little bit more. And then like the carbines were maybe $150 if you wanted a nice M44, so a little bit more. But otherwise, these were the king of cheap guns, and they worked well. This one just has kind of a weak ejector, which I don't really care. If you run the bolt hard enough, it ejects, so it technically still works. They were extremely utilitarian. You could technically hunt with these. I have killed hogs with this one. Never a deer, though. I want optics if I'm going to try to shoot a deer, and I'm not going to butcher this gun up or bubba it in any way. It's just going to stay the way it is. So I've killed pigs with it, and it did fine. I've never actually tried to group this gun. I know the barrel is in good shape. The rifling is still strong. I don't know if it was rebarreled when it was refurbed. It probably was, because the bolt has a lot of pitting on it, or not the bolt handle, rather. So I'm pretty sure this gun was probably damaged in World War II, if I had to bet, since it's a pre-World War II production. And was refurbed probably sometime in the 60s or 70s in Latvia or Lithuania. It's got as smooth as a bolt you can really get for a Mosin, so it still has that little hump there you have to defeat. There it goes. But otherwise, very nice fitment in the receiver, very smooth. But still has the Mosin hump, like they all do. Kind of a quirk of the design. I do think these are a little shit on today, more harshly than perhaps they need to be. They're better than Carcanos, by far, a better design than that. They're not as good as Mausers in any way, and I will fully say that. However, they're not trash, they're not garbage. I think the Lee Enfield gets worshipped a little bit more than it deserves, and this gun gets shit on perhaps a little bit more than it deserves. And what I mean by that is, you have a design that's really good for 1890, 1891, which is when this was designed. By World War II, the Soviet Union definitely should have modernized onto the SVT-40 like they had planned to. But World War II happened, this was the thing they could produce, so these got made instead. They were obsolete, I do believe, by World War II, or obsolescent. I think the word obsolete is kind of stupid for guns because they're all still very lethal. In the right hands, this is still an absolutely lethal rifle, especially at range. So, I mean, yeah, 3 to 4 MOA is not great at 500 yards, but hitting a man-sized target still definitely is possible, especially in a full-sized rifle caliber. So, still lethal weapons by far. Obsolescent is a better word. They're not the best thing to be using, but they could still technically work, is probably the best way of putting it. They were obsolescent by World War II, but they're not useless. They helped the Soviet Union win the war, basically. They're extremely well made as far as safety goes, as having a strong action. You can watch the old Iraq Veteran 8888 video where they try to explode a Mosin, and the action is very, very resilient. These guns are extremely overbuilt in that area. Very hard to blow apart. Sure, they could be done, but not easy. But I remember you had so much World War II media coming out at the time that had the Mosin in it, and it just made these sell even more because from their already low prices. You had The Enemy at the Gates, you had Call of Duty World at War with the whole sniper mission with the Mosins, that I remember people were just... I remember there were guys at my... because I'm from a rural area. There were guys at my high school that were so excited turning 18 because they could go get Mosins, like from World at War, because they were so cheap at the time. I I remember that. Everyone was excited about that. Mosins were the Lee Enfield. Okay, so basically with your generations, the millennials, you guys got the Lee Enfields. That was y'all's kind of cheap surplus that you really fell in love with. So if you were like becoming an adult in like the early 2000s, late 2000s, you were be into Lee Enfields and probably Yugo Mausers. And there was also Czech Mausers, and a lot of Mausers were real cheap back then too. But then the guys that were like coming of age around 2010, 2011, the Mosins were our stuff. They were our Lee Enfield. They were our cheap gun that was good. And I really don't know what the guys that are turning like 18 now are getting into. I guess Palmetto State ARs, which, like, yeah, they're capable guns. They're just zero soul. Like these old, I loved learning to shoot on these old crappy iron sights. Like, this gun is so full of soul, and it teaches you so much about just collecting guns and mil surp and military arms in general, learning to shoot something like this, starting out. It's got a good mushy trigger like most Mosins, nothing to write home there. But I do like this gun, and I will keep it as a good example of a nice 9130, I guess you could say, refurb. But yeah, this has been the Mosin 10 minutes, more like. And I just wanted to reminisce about how nice it was when these guns were cheap and how cool they were, and how the media at the time all seemed to build up on them and everybody wanted one. And they were the cool low priced gun of the mid 2000s, really, late 2000s. These guns kind of had an overlap with the Lee Enfields, but the Lee Enfields are much more of a millennial gun. I don't see many, and Gen Xer gun, I don't see many people my age praising their Lee Enfields they bought around that time. But yeah, that's my feelings on the Mosins, and I will talk to you guys later. This has been Skinwalker Hidden Valley Ranch, out.